Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. Text 20. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu seva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram upavritam prasangam ajarang pasham atmana kavayo vidu seva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram upavritam prasangam ajarang pasham atmana kavayo vidu seva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram apavritam Vaishnavis. Prasangam, attachment. Ajaram, strong. Pasham, entanglement. Atmana, of the soul. Kavaya, learned men. Vidu, no. Saeva, that same. Sadhushu, to the devotees. Krita, applied. Mokshadvaram, the door of liberation. Apavritam, opened. Translation. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Purport. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life, and the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness. An attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness, therefore, is the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity, by constitution, has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachments to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditioned state. But that same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or long beard. A sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who unflinchingly engages in devotional service. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhu eva samantavya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu or devotee. Lord Caitanya also confirmed this. Lava matra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hoy. Simply by a moment's association with a sadhu, one can attain perfection. Mahatma is a synonym of sadhu. It is said that service to a Mahatma, or elevated devotee of the Lord, is dwaram ahur vimukte, the royal road of liberation. Mahatsevam dwaram ahur vimuktes tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. Rendering service to the materialists has the opposite effect. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person, the door to hell is open. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshiper, and sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition. But he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with a sadhu. Kapila Muni, first of all, instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association. Translation again. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul, but that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Om Gana Chimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This verse outlines the career in bhakti. I'd like to point out that bhakti is a lifetime career. We shouldn't think of it as just something that is a phase we're going through and who knows what will come next. We should plan out our life strategically and deliberately, a life in Krishna service. This is what Lord Caitanya told to Raghunath Das, who kept trying to run away from home. Lord Caitanya told him, it's not the time for that right now. Don't be crazy. Just think carefully. Be at home, do all your household affairs so perfectly that no one suspects that you're going to run away one day. Now, bear in mind, the family of Raghunath Das, they were comparable to a billionaire's family. His father's brother were loaded. And they were devotees. They were such devotees that Haridas Thakur would have home programs at their house. And Raghunath Das's father was a favorite of Advaita Acharya. His father would go serve the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya. Yet Raghunath Das keeps trying to run away from that home situation. So what would you say? He's immature devotee? He's fanatical? No, his life is meant for association with Mahaprabhu and demonstrating the greatest example of renunciation. He was meant for something else. So we shouldn't think bad of his family life, but it wasn't for him. But you can understand the father, the mother being attached to such a wonderful son. He would run away and they would capture him because they had the resources and the manpower to fan out in the countryside and check all the roads, check all the paths, and they would always capture Raghunath Das again and again and again. His father was so wealthy, he had 11 persons watching his son. So like 5 watchmen, 4 personal servants, 2 Brahmana cooks. They waited on Raghunath Das hand and foot and kept a surveillance on him. But he kept trying to run away. Finally, he asked his father, please give me permission to go to Shantipur to see Mahaprabhu. So the father allowed him to go, along with a whole retinue of servants and cooks and watch persons. And so when Raghunath Das arrived at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Caitanya, being omniscient, told him, don't be so disruptive. What you should do is stay at home for now. Do your household duties so perfectly that no one will suspect what's really going on internally. And then the right time will come for you to run away. But think strategically. Plan out your life. Be deliberative. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So that's what Raghunath Das did. He went home and was the perfect son in terms of helping his father's business, family affairs. He was married. So he did that for a year, 1 year. And gradually the father slackened the guards. And so Raghunath Das tried to run away. In a far-off place, his father's men caught him, brought him back. And so Raghunath Das is back at home, and you can imagine the anxiety the mother is going through. And you know, when the mother is in anxiety, who's she going to put it on? So she put it on Raghunath Das's father. Oh, do something. How are you going to keep him at home? His own mother said, tie him up with a rope. And what did the father say? Look, what we've done to bind him, if that doesn't work, I don't know what will. He's got the opulence like Indra. He's got a wife as beautiful as an angel. If that doesn't do the trick, I don't know what will. He's a madman of Sri Chaitanya Chandra. It seems nothing can stop him. So indeed, the time did come when Raghunath Das could escape home. But the point is that Mahaprabhu told him, be careful, think about things, be deliberative, plan out things, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then the moment of Krishna's mercy when you can run away and join us in Jagannath Puri, that will happen. So our career in bhakti is all about attachment, transferring attachment from the material to the spiritual. Map out your life in that way. You've got this capacity for attachment. You can't kill it, as Prabhupada so eloquently explains in the purport. So what are you going to do with this propensity to be attached? How is your life going to deal with that? So here, this is the central battlefield, the make it or break it, so to speak, factor in your life. What am I going to do about my desire to be attached? How am I going to handle that? How progressively will I transfer the attachment from the material to the spiritual? So Lord Kapila in this chapter is analyzing material nature. He's introducing that analysis. The coming chapters will be very analytical and very detailed about material nature. But when Kapila teaches you about Prakriti, material nature, he's always pointing out the Purusha, the Supreme Person behind it all. And he's describing the form of the Supreme Person. So he's not just giving an expose of how Maya works. That's definitely there. But he's pointing out who is behind it all and who we should be seeing behind it all. In the purport, Prabhupada talks about fake sadhus, real sadhus. How real sadhu don't expect instructions on how to improve your material life. Instead, expect instructions on how to cut the knot of material contamination. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda can be baffling. They were walking together and they came upon a tamasic so-called sannyasi, Durga worshiper. These kind of so-called renunciants engage in sensuality, intoxication, and so forth, meat eating, and they justify it as Durga Puja. So Mahaprabhu and Nityananda came upon such a person. And Lord Chaitanya amazingly says to him, "Who are you? Why has it been so long since I've met you? Where have you been all this time?" And the tantric so-called sannyasi was very pleased to hear such a cordial greeting. And he began to explain to Lord Chaitanya he would name all the tantric so-called sannyasis in the whole region because he was excited. Mahaprabhu, he knows Sankirtan. He knows. Approach him. "How are you? Where have you been? Where are you coming from? How come I haven't seen you all my life?" And so the tantric sannyasi started talking, bubbling. "I can tell you all of the tantric sannyasis in this area." And then he said, he was so enthusiastic, he said, "Please come to my temple. We'll have nice bliss drinks." Alcohol. So Lord Chaitanya said, we're coming. You go home first and prepare the place." So the tantric sannyasi was very happy. "Oh, he's coming. He raced home to his temple to prepare the drinks, but Lord Chaitanya never showed up. But Vrindavan Das Thakur points out that by Lord Chaitanya's good wishes upon this sinful person, that person could begin his spiritual life. Maybe he wouldn't reach perfection in this lifetime, but in a future lifetime. But there's another example, even more dramatic. Lord Caitanya, he's still Vishwambar. He hasn't taken sannyas yet. He's walking with Nityananda, who is in the garb of a sannyasi, and they're going to the house of Advaita Acharya. And on the way, Lord Caitanya says, look at that house there. Who lives in that house? And Nityananda says, it's a tantric sannyasi. So Lord Caitanya says, let's go. Let's go. And Mahaprabhu offers obeisances to the tantric sannyasi and calls him Goswami. And the tantric sannyasi, who's addicted to alcohol, sensuality, you name it, meat eating, he's very pleased to see the form of Gauranga, the face, the limbs, the golden complexion. So he decides to give Mahaprabhu a blessing. I bless you that you will have nice family life, a good wife, learning, and wealth. And Lord Caitanya says, Goswami, what kind of benediction is that for you to offer? You should be offering Krishna's mercy. And what does the tantric sannyasi say? Just see the nature of the age of Kali. Here I am giving such a benediction, and not only is it not appreciated, but I'm being criticized. Just see what the world is coming to. So Lord Caitanya explains that a real benediction is what brings about devotional service. Only that kind of benediction can have value. The tantric sannyasi looks at him and says, how can you live in this world without sensuality and wealth? These things are expected. What's the use of living if you don't have these things? And he said to Lord Caitanya, if you're practicing bhakti, how does that put food in your belly? You need economic advancement to put food in your belly. So Lord Caitanya explains. He gives him 3 basic refutations. He says, number 1, your fever comes to you. A fever comes to your body without your asking for it, but it still comes. Number 2, whatever you get to eat is according to your karma. And number 3, if having a nice, beautiful partner, having wealth is so important and so crucial, why at the time of death is it all taken away? If those things are meant to be the essence of life, then why are they yanked away from you at the time of death, which can come at any moment? So in other words, Lord Caitanya is explaining, your material happiness and distress is already factored by your karma. You should be endeavoring for devotional service. What was the tantric sannyasi's reaction? Just see, I have been to the whole world. He considered the whole world, all the holy places in India. I've been to the whole world. Hardwar, Rishikesh, Kashi, here, there. I'm so experienced, and I have to listen to this Brahmana Kumar, this young boy Brahmana, instructing me? Just see what the world has come to. He's nothing but a child, and he's instructing me? He's still sucking the milk from his mother's breast, and yet he thinks he's so experienced. Oh, this is how condemned the world has become. So Nityananda then inserts himself. Wait a minute. Goswami, this Brahmana boy is just a child. Don't take him so seriously. Nityananda cut in because the tantric sannyasi was concluding that maybe it's not the fault of this young Brahmana boy that he speaks such delusion, denying material sensuality, material economic growth. Maybe it's the fault of this sannyasi who he's traveling with. Maybe this sannyasi has polluted his mind and bewildered him with such crazy thoughts about devotional service and bhakti, being the ultimate, being the everything. So then Nityananda says to him, look, whatever this child is speaking, in other words, is of his own will, his own volition. Don't take it so seriously. You are such a great sage. You're such a great saint. So then the tantric sannyasi calmed down and said, please, let us have something to eat. At that point, Nityananda says, time for us to go. We have an important business to attend to. But the tantric sannyasi pleaded, and then Lord Caitanya, Lord Nityananda, upon deliberation, thought, it's our mission to deliver the most fallen. So they decided, we'll stay. We'll take bath nearby in the Ganga, and we'll come back. So they did that. They came back with some fruit and some milk. They didn't eat the tantric sannyasi's cooking. They just brought their own fruit and milk, and they were eating. And then the tantric sannyasi, he looks at Lord Nityananda and says, would you like some ananda? I've got some ananda. And he motioned. So Lord Nityananda, he had already been to many holy places, so he knew what was going on. Ananda, eh? But then Lord Caitanya, acting as a naive Brahmana boy, said, what is this Ananda he's talking about? Nityananda told him, I think he's talking about alcohol. Lord Caitanya said, alcohol, let's go. So they washed their hands, immediately left, and jumped in the Ganga, both of them. As they began floating down the Ganga to the house of Advaita Acharya, which is another Leela we may talk about Saturday. So what's going on here? Why is Mahaprabhu, why is Nityananda hanging out with such unsavory characters? These tantrics, they have their own so-called shastras. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in this Leela in Chaitanya Bhagavat describes a bit of the so-called shastras that these so-called sannyasis follow. First, you meditate on the guru and the deity, and then you take your glass of wine, and before you sip, you chant a mantra 5 times. And then you sip, and then you chant the mantra again 5 times, take another sip, and according to their shastras, you must keep drinking mantras, drinking until you totally lose it. And that's the goal. But because you said the mantras with each sip, you're a yogi. Maybe when you're going to Vrindavan, especially Govardhan Hill, you see on the side of the road these Babajis clad in red. Anyone seen? And they have a little altar set up at the side of the road with Shiva, Durga, and they have their pipe. And first they offer the pipe to the deity, and then... So why is Lord Caitanya, why is Lord Nityananda hanging out with such persons? You have to understand their mission, to deliver the most fallen. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out there's an even deeper reason. Lord Caitanya is showing, I'd rather associate and try to deliver these sensualist sinners than associate with Mayavadis. And bear in mind, when he says that, bear in mind what a Vedic, so-called Vedic impersonalist is. Very austere, always studying the Vedanta, living a very renounced life, far beyond what we can imagine today. But they know nothing of devotional service. So Vrindavan Das Thakur gives the example of Lord Caitanya being in Kashi, Varanasi. The conclusion of that stay in Kashi is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Caitanya was being blasphemed by the impersonalists. Oh, you're a sentimental bhakta. What is all this chanting and dancing? You should be studying Vedanta, speculating on Brahman. Finally, the associates of Lord Caitanya couldn't take it anymore. They appealed to Lord Caitanya, please, please do something about this. We're about to kill ourselves. We can't stand hearing this blasphemy any longer. And it's that time, at that moment, when someone came up to invite Lord Caitanya to lunch with the Mayavadi sannyasis. And he went because of the suffering of the devotees. But this is before. Chaitanya Bhagavat describes what happens before that. Lord Caitanya was in Kashi, Varanasi, and all the Mayavadi sannyasis heard, the great Chaitanya is coming. We're all trying to merge with Brahman. He's already merged. Surely he'll come meet with us. We're all of the same lineage. We're all from the line of Shankaracharya. Surely he'll want to mingle with us. But Lord Caitanya would never go see them, never go associate with them. And they were very disappointed. In fact, Lord Caitanya left Kashi at that time. He left without giving any notice. And when the Mayavadi sannyasis heard that, they were, how can he do this? He's one of us. He's one of our own. They were very disappointed. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out, just see, Lord Caitanya avoided so strongly the association of these impersonalists, even though they were so pukka in their external behavior, austere, learned in Sanskrit, learned in the Shastras, but they were learned in everything except devotional service. They would deny the value of devotional service. So Lord Caitanya is showing that better you be a sinful sensualist than someone who blasphemes the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees by saying the Supreme Lord has no face, no activities, no qualities. Better you just be a sinful sensualist, because at least your sensuality can be counteracted by pious activity. But by being an offender of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee, what is the hope? What is the solution? There's none, except you have to beg for their mercy. So Lord Caitanya is showing that. Yes, I went to the home of this sensualist drunkard, tantric sannyasi. Yes, I responded favorably to an invitation from another tantric sannyasi. Even though I never went, I responded favorably. I'm showing you that these persons are better than the hardcore atheistic sannyasis who say everything is Brahman and Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes are all mythological. They're all material. They're just a meditational device, a material meditational device until you reach Brahman, when you realize you are God, everyone is God. So Lord Caitanya is showing, I'd rather avoid such persons and associate with sensualist drunkards and try to help them than to hang out with, have lunch with Mayavadi sannyasis. So in this way, you might wonder, what would be the fate of that tantric sannyasi, sensualist, drunkard, meat eater? Vrindavan Das Thakur points out that he may not attain perfection in this lifetime. He's associated with Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, but still, he may not get it in this life, but there's the next life. So that's how Lord Chaitanya's mercy works. But he doesn't, Mahaprabhu refuses to give his mercy to such impersonalist blasphemers. In spite of their piety, in spite of their external austerities. So, Chaitanya Bhagavat points out that Lord Chaitanya is doing all this to show the ordinary devotee, because the ordinary devotee would think, oh, these Vedantic sannyasis, we have a slight difference of opinion with them, but they're all right. They're sadhus, they are renounced, they're austere, they're always studying Vedanta according to Shankaracharya. So yeah, they're a bit off, but look at the glories of their renunciation and their shastric study. But Lord Chaitanya is showing the tantric sannyasis are better. The drunkard, alcoholic, sensualist sannyasis, so-called sannyasis, they're better than these so-called Vedantic impersonalists. In this way, Mahaprabhu is educating the ordinary devotee, because the ordinary devotee tends to become bewildered. Oh, Swami so-and-so, look at the length of the beard. Look at how saffronish the saffron cloth is. Listen, he knows Sanskrit. Oh. So Lord Chaitanya is showing you, forget it. Better look towards the sensualists, better look towards the drunkards than associate with hardcore impersonalists who deny the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki! Any questions?
Hare Krishna. I was just wondering why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't liberate them like what he did with Prakashananda Saraswati. You know, he liberated all of them. So why he didn't do the same thing with them?
The devotees in Kashi pleaded with Mahaprabhu, please do something about this. So because of the request of the devotees, Mahaprabhu went. The mercy of the devotee, that is everything. Chandrasekhar, Acharya, Tapan Mishra, they were pleading with him. We can't take it anymore, hearing all this blasphemy. You're being accused of being a sentimentalist. You're being accused of being bogus. Please, please do something about it. We're going to give up our life. So because of the request of the devotees, Lord Chaitanya went to the abode of the headquarters of the Mayavadis sannyasis, headed by Prakashananda Saraswati. And he gave Prakashananda Saraswati a chance to do service. Lord Chaitanya sat down on the floor near where the feet are washed, considered a dirty place. And that was a Sankirtan tactic. Prakashananda Saraswati came to that spot and extended his hand. Please, Goswami, let me help you out of that place. That's Lord Chaitanya engaging him in devotional service. So by the request of the devotees and by Prakashananda Saraswati just doing a little bit of service, the situation changed. Just consider this. In our speaker, was it Bhaktavatar yesterday? Or the day before? He was talking, he gave some statistics from Australia. So when Prabhupada came to Australia, Melbourne, Australia, 1975, he said a very astounding thing. That if, when you're on book distribution, and someone takes one of his books, one of Prabhupada's books in their hand, looks at it, appreciates, nice, and then, no, not today, hands it back to you, that appreciation is enough to give you a human form of life in the next birth. So think about that. Shavas Prabhu.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that we should associate with a sadhu, but he also said in the purport we can't expect him to give instructions on how to improve our material condition, but he'll give us instructions on how we can actually become worshippers of Krishna. So how do we apply that in Krishna consciousness? In other words, you know, this is the material world. I mean, there's so many things that are needed, and there's so many things that go on. How do we apply that particular instruction?
I'm sure, as the resident sadhu here, that when devotees approach you, maybe for financial or marital advice, the bottom line is always devotional service.
Definitely.
Yes. So you're giving them lifestyle guidance, all for the conclusion, having a Krishna-centered life.
So that's the key element.
Yes, that's the key element.
We can help them.
That's what Lord Chaitanya did with Raghunath Das. Wait a minute, what's all this running away? Just wait at home for the right moment. That right moment will come. Lord Chaitanya never told them, just stay at home and forget it. Just do your business and that's the end. No, he said, just do everything at home perfectly. The example given, like a wife who has a paramour. She does her household duties. I hope you never see such an example. But she does her household duties very carefully so the husband doesn't suspect. But in her heart, she's always thinking of the paramour. So Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath Das in that way, that you do your household duties so nicely, but in your heart only have the desire to serve Radha and Krishna. And the right time will come. So Lord Chaitanya was giving lifestyle advice centered on engaging in devotional service, just as I'm sure you do. So if any of you need good household advice, you know where to go. And you also know where not to go. Hint. Yes.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, thank you for a nice class. Wanted to ask, how would one know if they have received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda?
This is a point I like to explain on Nityananda's appearance day. Lord Chaitanya reveals Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda reveals Lord Chaitanya. It's a team. Just like Krishna and Balaram are a team. When they go to the forest, they're doing teamwork. Similarly, when they come as Chaitanya Nitai, it's a team. Lord Chaitanya makes you aware of the need for Nityananda's mercy. The song by Narottam Das Thakur, Gauranga bolite habe pulakashirya, Hari Hari bolite naine bhave nir, Arkabe nitai chander, karuna hoibe. When will tears flow from my eyes when I chant the name Gauranga? And then the next verse, when will I get the mercy of Lord Nityananda so all my material desires are insignificant? Just like when a fly lands on your shoulder, you don't fall to pieces. It's so insignificant. So that's what Narottam Das Thakur is implying, that when will my material desires be so insignificant? Kabe tucha habe. So first, Gauranga allows you to see the need for Nityananda. And then Nityananda allows you to see the need to deepen your relationship with Gauranga. So they go back and forth like that. So both are always together. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, thank you for a wonderful class. I was thinking about the point you mentioned, how Lord Chaitanya didn't want to associate with the Mayavadis, but he would rather associate with these swamis who are engaged in sensuality. And but then here we see Srila Prabhupada, every day we chant his pranam mantra like Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. So could you say something on that?
You're not trying to convert Mayavadi sannyasis. You're not Mahaprabhu who can handle a Prakashananda Saraswati. But you're dealing with the ordinary people who are infected unconsciously and sometimes consciously by such concoction. You know, I'm just trying to be spiritual. I just, you know, the whatever, you know. and they expect you to nod your head. Yeah, the whatever. Yeah. Krishna, Durga, Shiva, whatever. I've had persons tell me, oh, you're into Krishna? I'm into scuba diving. Whatever gets you through the night, you know? Good on you. You got your thing. You got the Krishna thing. I've got scuba diving, rock climbing. It's all spiritual. My girlfriend is spiritual. And you're spiritual too. How nice. That's the result of pop Mayavad. People are generally You'll rarely meet a hardcore. Sometimes you will, as Archita Prabhu was saying the other day. Someone sent a message on Facebook or something. When all is said and done, everything is just one. You'll rarely meet persons like that. You'll meet the pop impersonalist. They've just heard things. Yeah, I am he, and we are she, and the energy, yeah. That's generally the type of persons you'll meet. And if they talk too much nonsense, just pop a samosa in their mouth. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you for such an instructive class, Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm just comparing the pastime that you mentioned, the interaction of Lord Chaitanya with the tantric, and then his interactions with Jagaya and Madhai, who are also sensualist and alcoholic. But in that case, am I correct in my understanding that for Lord Chaitanya, the protection of his devotee was much more important than preaching? Because
Well, Lord Nityananda was determined, I'm going to deliver these two. So the intent of Lord Nityananda was there. And not only that, but they had the nerve, those two had the nerve to, one of them at least, to attack Lord Nityananda. So both things were combined. Whereas this tantric so-called sannyasi, he wouldn't take the instruction of Mahaprabhu seriously. Although Mahaprabhu was explaining to him the conclusion that devotional service is the everything. What was the reaction of this bewildered sensualist? Oh, this is Kali Yuga. A young boy instructing me who knows everything, who's seen the whole world. This boy, this Brahmana Kumar, he's still being nursed by his mother's breast, and he's going to tell me about what is the most important? Still, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they stayed there enough to rest, bathe, and have lunch. But then when the Ananda thing came up, time to go. So you have to know when to leave, when enough is enough. And Mahaprabhu and Nityananda are demonstrating that. Okay, this is a bit too over the top here. He's offering us alcohol. They immediately got up and left. Yes.
I want to understand this a little bit better from the 5th canto, text number 2, no, 552. And it says like this: one can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whoever wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. So in that two statements there, it appears that it is given some kind of credit to the impersonalists as a great advanced devotees too.
But they're not offenders. They're not Mayavadis. There's a subtle distinction between a Brahmavadi who is situated at a certain phase of spiritual development, focusing on the impersonal Brahman. There's a difference between that kind and the one who says, Krishna's Maya, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's form are all illusion. There's a big difference. Shukadeva Goswami was a Brahmavadi. He says in 2nd canto, he says, I was perfectly situated in Brahman realization. And then my father began to speak while I was in the womb. My father began to speak the glories of Krishna. So you're pointing out that there are impersonalists who are just in that particular phase. They don't blaspheme Krishna. Whereas Mayavadis blaspheme Krishna. He's formless. He's qualityless. All right? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.